We'll move on to the talk from South Australia. The Power and the Crows combined loss of 152 points on the weekend. Let's have a look how it all unfolded.
Clearly incredibly disappointing. Everything you could possibly get wrong, we got wrong. We were belted in areas of the game that we are consistently pretty good at, around contest, around stoppage. Defensively, we couldn't control much of the game at all. They were better at it at the contest. They were better at every part of the game.
It's a terrible day. There'd be some nervous players in that part of that group as far as their spots on the Adelaide Crows list go in 2020. If they do make the finals, I think they'll be just making up the numbers.
Super disappointing. I mean, we've let ourselves down. We let our fans and supporters down, and it's not acceptable. So we've got some searching to do.
Channel 7's own Mark Soderstrom knows as much about the inner workings of South Australian football as anyone in the business. Soder's been good enough to jump on live from South Australia this morning. Soder, I might start with the Adelaide Crows, and you've got a bit of information that they are going to overhaul their list completely in the off-season. What can you tell us?
Well, Das, it's been a pretty amazing week. You can imagine the fallout. Being a South Australian boy, you know how intense the media gets and all the supporters and members. If you look at the Crows, of course, 2017 was that fantastic year, but that list 2 years on is starting to age. Now, there's 9 players that are 29 years of age plus. I think Tommy Lynch is 29 next month, so that makes 10 around that age. And look, the game's moved quickly, and it appears that the Crows haven't quite moved with it, with that list that they have. So expect there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of rumblings going on that a lot of players do want out as well. Obviously, there's been some interest in Eddie Betts from the Gold Coast to perhaps play that Luke Hodge type role over the next couple of years. So you would expect there's going to be a lot of change. Don Pike, for the first time this year, really talked after that Collingwood game about needing to look at all facets of the football department as well. You know, they've lost 6 of their last 8 games, and they've been, well, one of the biggest disappointments this season, probably along with Melbourne. I think Timmy Watson had them as premiers, and you guys probably all had them up reasonably high. But look, it's been a disastrous season, and expect a lot to change.
Yeah, so big list overhaul coming. How about Port Adelaide? You've got a bit of information about their coach and a trigger clause. Give us an update on that, please.
Yeah, Das, well, look, there's a lot of attention on Ken Hinkley as well, and of course he resisted to move to the Suns a few years ago and sign that contract. We look at Port Adelaide, so Ken's contracted for 1 more year, but there's a trigger clause that either for this year or next year, if they make finals, he'll get 2021. But all year, of course, the chairman, David Koch, has said, look, it's finals or bust. You know, that's our pass mark. It looks like they're not going to make finals now, so I don't know if something has to give in that area, but Ken has 1 year left. I suppose if you look at the 2 lists, Port are in a better spot because we've seen some great stuff from their kids. Connor Rosie, Dersma, Butters, Drew, Atlee's pretty reasonable as well. Dan Houston has done well moving to the midfield. So, look, their youngsters are good, but if you look at it, Connor Rosie's their #1 goal kicker in their team at the moment. He's a teenager in his first year of football, so they're going to target some depth in their forward line, no doubt. But, yeah, it'd be interesting just to see where Ken is as it comes over the next couple of weeks, given they said he's got to play finals this year, even though he does have 1 year next year.
Thanks, Soder. Really appreciate you giving us an update live from South Australia there. So you're obviously pretty bullish, at the start of the year on the Adelaide Crows. That sounds as though they are going to really work over their list. And we know a lot of players have been open about the fact they want to get out of the Adelaide Crows, which is clearly not a great sign.
It goes to the heart that it can't be a particularly happy place to be playing your football. Now, I don't know what those reasons might be. If you lose games of football, it becomes an unhappy place for a start. But it seems over the years they've had that consistency of losing players, particularly key position defenders, and we think that Keith might be on the move. His name has been mentioned. Also, the midfielder. Crouch. Yeah, I think they might throw Crouch out there as possible trade bait because
Greenwood was being thrown.
Greenwood's the other player I was thinking of too that's been linked to St Kilda. So there could be some massive changes there at the end of this year, Adelaide, as they try and just rejuvenate their list.
So, Tim, if they do a review, an in-house review, and ask why these players wanted to go, they're not going to get the honest answers, are they? The successful models in reviews that have worked recently where it's independent, the player is told, whatever you tell me right now will not be released to anyone but the board, and then they can speak candidly and they can say, the reason I want to leave is because he does this or he does that. And that's screaming out for Adelaide need an independent review to find out why those players want to leave.
I agree with Soders. I think Port Adelaide are in a stronger position because of those young guys that he spoke about. And Adelaide, that is a real concern. But they're in a position, if I'm at Adelaide and I'm making those decisions, I'm saying if you want to go home, but make sure they get something for it. make sure they trade well and get something back, because the guys that have gone in recent times, they've got very little for those guys. So that's the key for me. If they don't want to be at the club, ship them off.
But find out why they don't want to be.
Yeah,
there could be a factor there. That
you would think that if there's open dialogue in a football club, you would think that there would be people already within that football club that wouldn't know. If there was unhappy players in there, they would know what the reasons were. They don't have to look very far to see how somebody's been able to rejuvenate their list by going and getting some early picks.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide have done that particularly well. So, I mean, you put those... If they were to be able to go to the draft table at the end of this year and pick up 3 young players, the quality of the ones that Port Adelaide added to their list last year, I mean, that can reshape their season.
Yeah, watch this space with interest. Let's get to...